Why do so many people cling to beliefs that fall apart the moment you examine them with honesty? What makes a lie so seductive that entire societies defend it as if their survival depended on it? This is where the real danger begins, not in the lie itself, but in how deeply it shapes perception, identity, and behavior without anyone noticing. When a false idea is repeated long enough, when it becomes part of the cultural air people breathe, it stops feeling like a belief and starts feeling like reality. And once something feels like reality, questioning it becomes almost forbidden. You have probably felt this tension before. That uncomfortable moment when something inside you whispers that a truth everyone follows makes no sense. That subtle inner pull telling you that the official narrative does not match your lived experience. But instead of exploring that whisper, most people silence it. They prefer the comfort of belonging over the discomfort of awareness. This is how piercing lies survive, not because they are convincing, but because challenging them threatens the identity structures people depend on. And if you have ever tried to point out one of these collective illusions, you already know what happens next. People look at you as if you are the problem. They defend the lie with emotional intensity, even aggression, because the truth would force them to face everything they have been avoiding. This is why awakening is so disruptive. The moment you begin to see clearly, the world you once fit into stops making sense. You start noticing contradictions others ignore, and you begin asking questions others are afraid to ask. That shift is the beginning of spiritual perception, the moment when consciousness slices through the fog and reveals the uncomfortable layers beneath. Now, before we go deeper, tell me something. Have you ever sensed that a belief everyone around you swore was true was actually a carefully engineered illusion? If this first part stirred something in you, leave a comment sharing your experience. Make sure to like the video and check if you're already subscribed so you do not miss what comes next, because the next layer of this journey will push this insight even further as we continue unfolding what lies beneath these collective illusions. When you begin to look beneath the surface of widely accepted beliefs, something remarkable happens. You start noticing how effortlessly the mind absorbs collective narratives without questioning their origins. Most people assume their thoughts are their own, yet the majority of what they defend with passion was inherited, conditioned, or absorbed through repetition. These unseen forces shape behaviors so subtly that individuals believe they are acting from free will when they are actually acting from internalized programming. And once a belief becomes embedded in the subconscious, it operates like an invisible script directing choices, emotions, and worldview. This is why piercing lies are so effective. They do not need to be logical. They only need to feel familiar. The human mind prefers the comfort of the known over the uncertainty of self-inquiry. So even when reality contradicts a belief, most people will twist their perception rather than confront the possibility that the belief itself is false. This psychological mechanism protects identity at the cost of clarity. It is easier to defend a comforting illusion than dismantle the internal structures built upon it. You can see this everywhere, in cultural expectations, social norms, spiritual cliches, and even personal stories people repeat about themselves without noticing how borrowed they are. These beliefs operate like filters, determining what individuals notice and what they ignore. And because everyone around them reinforces the same narratives, the illusion becomes self-sustaining. No one questions the script because everyone is busy performing their assigned roles. But once you step outside this collective hypnosis, the entire structure begins to look different. You start seeing how much of human behavior is not rooted in truth, but in inherited fear. Fear of being excluded, fear of looking wrong, fear of facing the unknown. And when fear is the foundation, even the most obvious lies can appear sacred. Recognizing this is the first real shift of spiritual perception. The moment you understand that beliefs are often not reflections of reality, but reflections of what people are afraid to confront. And from here, something deeper begins to unfold, pushing you toward a level of awareness that cannot coexist with unquestioned illusions. As you continue peeling back the layers of these collective illusions, you begin to notice something even more unsettling. People do not just believe lies, they protect them. Not because the lies are convincing, but because questioning them threatens the psychological safety they've constructed around their identities. A piercing lie becomes powerful precisely because it gives people a sense of stability. It offers a framework, a structure, a script they can follow without confronting the chaos of genuine self-discovery. And when someone challenges that script, even gently, the reaction is rarely curiosity. It is defense. This happens because the mind is wired to avoid cognitive dissonance. When a belief is deeply rooted, the truth feels like an attack. The moment you expose a contradiction, people feel as if you are destabilizing the foundation they stand on. Instead of examining the belief, they reinforce it. Instead of questioning their narrative, they double down on it. And this is why collective illusions can survive for generations. They are emotionally protected, not logically validated. The lie becomes a psychological shelter, and anyone who threatens it becomes a perceived threat. You can see this dynamic in social groups, families, religious communities, political identities, and even in everyday conversations. People unconsciously form alliances around shared illusions because it gives them a sense of belonging. Challenging those illusions feels like betraying the tribe, so the group defends the lie as if defending their own survival. The mechanics of projection then take over. Instead of confronting the internal conflict triggered by truth, individuals project discomfort outward, attacking the person who revealed the inconsistency. This is why those who see through the illusion often find themselves misunderstood. They are not rejected for being wrong, they are rejected for being disruptive to the unconscious agreement that keeps the group emotionally stable. When you point out a truth that contradicts the collective belief, you are not just challenging an idea. You are challenging the psychological equilibrium of everyone who relies on that idea to feel safe. And this is the moment where awakening becomes more than an internal process. It becomes a radical shift that separates you from the behavior patterns most people accept without question. Once you begin seeing the lies everyone else accepts as truths, a subtle transformation occurs in how the world responds to you. People may start labeling you as intense, negative, or even difficult, simply because your perception pierces the comfortable veils they hide behind. They are not attacking you out of malice. They are defending themselves from truths they cannot face. Your clarity acts as a mirror, reflecting aspects of reality they have chosen to ignore. And mirrors can be unsettling, even terrifying, because they force recognition of what has been avoided for so long. This is the first social cost of awakening, the isolation of consciousness. Friends who once understood your surface-level humor or casual conversations may now feel alienated by the depth of insight you bring. Colleagues might avoid discussing certain topics, fearing that your awareness will reveal the cracks in the narrative they cling to. Even family dynamics shift as long-held assumptions are challenged by your presence. This is not a punishment. It is a natural consequence of perceiving what others cannot or will not see. It is a sign that your mind is expanding beyond the collective comfort zone, and yet this discomfort is necessary. The friction between your awareness and the world around you is not a flaw. It is the very process of spiritual maturation. Your ability to discern the invisible lies is like a key unlocking a door that most have never even noticed exists, and as you step through the reactions of others, are a measure of how deeply entrenched the illusions are. Those who feel threatened are revealing their attachment to false narratives. Those who are calm and curious may already be awakening alongside you. Now I want to ask you, have you experienced moments when your perception clashed with the unquestioned beliefs of those around you? Share your story in the comments below. Your reflections are invaluable, and they help us all recognize the subtle ways truth is often resisted. Leave your comment and engage in this conversation, because understanding and expressing these experiences is the first step toward navigating the world with clarity while maintaining compassion. As your awareness deepens, the moment of awakening reveals itself not only in observation, but in the shattering of previously unquestioned narratives. You begin to recognize that many of the structures governing daily life, social expectations, moral assumptions, cultural norms, are built upon layers of distortion, carefully maintained by repetition and conformity. This realization is both liberating and disorienting, because the world you once trusted as stable now appears constructed, like a stage with invisible strings controlling every movement. The awakening mind starts to see beyond appearances, discerning the hidden motivations and unconscious agreements that guide human behavior. What is most striking is the subtlety of these distortions. They are rarely overt lies. Instead, they are convenient half-truths, selective omissions, and socially sanctioned illusions that most people accept without question. When you begin noticing the patterns, it becomes apparent that these constructs are less about reality and more about maintaining collective comfort. People defend them with passion because these illusions provide identity, security, and belonging, even when they are not accurate reflections of the truth. Awareness, then, is a disruptive force, revealing the fragile foundations beneath commonly accepted realities. This is why the spiritually awakened often feel a profound dissonance with society. Every interaction, every conversation, every ritual that previously seemed ordinary now carries subtle tension. You start recognizing moments where truth is suppressed, where people play roles rather than express reality, where conformity is valued over honesty. The act of observing these dynamics is transformative. It creates a space in which you no longer unconsciously participate in the perpetuation of lies. Instead, you begin to navigate life with discernment, understanding the difference between compliance and conscious engagement. The challenge lies in balancing clarity with empathy. You see the distortions, yet you must resist the impulse to confront every lie aggressively, because others are not yet prepared to perceive these truths. Without resistance, awakening is a process of integration, a delicate dance between observing deception and maintaining presence. It is here, in this space of conscious discernment, that spiritual perception becomes not just recognition of falsehood, but the foundation for authentic action, guiding your choices, interactions, and understanding of the world around you. As you continue awakening to these hidden dynamics, one inevitable consequence becomes clear: isolation. Not the ordinary loneliness of lacking companionship, but a profound separation from the collective reality that most people inhabit without question. The more acutely you perceive the layers of deception, the more dissonant your presence becomes in a world structured around compliance and unconscious agreement. Conversations that once flowed effortlessly now feel strained. Social rituals that previously seemed benign now reveal subtle manipulations, omissions, and hidden assumptions. Your mind begins to inhabit a space that others cannot easily access, a vantage point where truth is visible but often unwelcome. This isolation is not simply external. It also manifests internally as you reconcile your perceptions with the prevailing narratives around you. While your awareness grows, the cognitive and emotional habits of those around you remain anchored in collective comfort zones. The disparity between your clarity and their unconscious patterns can be jarring, leaving you to navigate an internal world that recognizes reality as it is, even when the surrounding environment denies it. This tension requires the cultivation of psychological resilience, the ability to maintain equanimity amid contradictions, and the wisdom to discern which battles are worth engaging and which must be observed silently. Yet this solitude is paradoxically empowering. Within the space created by distancing from collective illusion, you gain the freedom to examine your own mind, emotions, and choices, without interference. You begin to see which of your responses are authentically yours and which are conditioned by societal pressures. Awareness becomes a form of self-liberation, a chance to refine judgment, deepen intuition, and cultivate a sense of inner sovereignty. The awakened learn to navigate life with conscious boundaries, choosing when to participate, when to observe, and when to step back entirely. Over time, the isolation reveals itself not as punishment, but as a protective container for consciousness. It allows the mind to integrate insights, develop clarity, and strengthen resilience against the subtle pressures of conformity. It becomes a space for authentic engagement, where actions are guided by perception rather than habitual obedience, and where the awakening individual can cultivate presence, discernment, and a grounded connection to the truths that others have yet to recognize. As you navigate this awakening, you inevitably encounter resistance from the world around you. People who are deeply invested in maintaining their illusions may react with confusion, frustration, or even hostility when confronted with your clarity. They are not consciously attacking you. Rather, their defenses arise from the unconscious recognition that your perception threatens the comfortable narratives that support their sense of security. Every question you ask, every observation you make, subtly disrupts the equilibrium of the collective, forcing others to face truths they are not yet ready to acknowledge. This is the invisible friction of awakening, a tension that tests your patience, resilience, and ability to remain grounded in your own awareness. The reactions you encounter are often mirrors of projection. Anger, defensiveness, or dismissal from others is rarely about you personally. It is about the fear they experience when the familiar structures of belief are challenged. And as you grow in awareness, these reactions can become more pronounced, because the lies that were once harmless now appear intolerable. Social interactions that once felt neutral become arenas of subtle negotiation, where every conversation carries the potential to reveal unconscious denial or collective bias. It is here that the awakened mind must develop discernment, recognizing which engagements are necessary and which are better observed from a distance without attachment or judgment. This is a pivotal moment in spiritual perception, understanding that resistance is not a signal to retreat in fear, but an opportunity to practice presence, patience, and non-reactivity. By observing without being consumed, you create a space where truth exists without imposing itself, allowing both yourself and others to inhabit reality at your respective readiness. And while this process may feel isolating, it also offers profound insight into human behavior, societal conditioning, and the subtle mechanisms that maintain collective illusions. Now, take a moment to reflect. Have you experienced others reacting negatively simply because you saw what they could not? Share your experience in the comments below. Your reflections help illuminate the subtle ways resistance manifests and provide insight into navigating the awakening journey. Engage with this conversation and let us explore together how awareness interacts with the world's unconscious patterns. Once you have faced the isolation and resistance that accompany awakening, the next step is reclaiming your own voice and agency. Years of absorbing collective illusions, adapting to social expectations, and internalizing narratives not your own can leave your perception dulled and your decisions influenced by forces you barely recognize. Awakening begins the process of disentangling from these inherited patterns, distinguishing what belongs to you from what has been imposed. It is here that the clarity gained through observation becomes actionable, empowering you to make choices aligned with your authentic self rather than the expectations of the unconscious majority. This stage is both delicate and powerful. It requires rigorous self-reflection, constant attention to internal dialogue, and an unwavering commitment to honesty with oneself. Every decision, every reaction is an opportunity to practice discernment, choosing responses that arise from understanding rather than conditioned habit. You learn to recognize subtle manipulations in interactions, to notice when societal pressure nudges you toward conformity, and to respond instead with authenticity. This is not a passive process. It is an active engagement with reality, a conscious assertion of personal sovereignty over inherited scripts and unconscious tendencies. Reclaiming your voice also entails integrating the lessons of solitude. The isolation you experienced earlier is now a space for observation, experimentation, and refinement of consciousness. In this quiet, internal environment, you can test your responses, explore perspectives, and develop confidence in the alignment of thought, emotion, and action. Each insight reinforces your sense of agency, allowing you to engage with the world without being overwhelmed by its illusions. By cultivating this self-trust, you become capable of influencing your own reality, shaping interactions, and navigating life with intentionality and clarity. This process transforms perception into empowerment. The awakened individual begins to operate, not merely as an observer of truth, but as a participant in conscious living. Actions emerge from understanding rather than obligation. Presence replaces automatic reaction, and choice replaces unconscious adherence. In reclaiming your voice, you are not seeking to correct others, but to align yourself with authenticity, creating a life informed by clarity, grounded in insight, and resilient in the face of collective illusion. As you reclaim your voice and assert your awareness, a profound sense of liberation begins to emerge. You start noticing how much energy was previously spent maintaining illusions and conforming to the expectations of others. The lies everyone once accepted as truths no longer hold sway over your decisions, emotions, or perception. This liberation is not about rejecting society or disengaging from human connection. It is about disentangling yourself from unconscious conditioning so that your choices are informed by insight rather than compulsion. The awakening. Mind experiences a newfound clarity, recognizing the difference between authentic engagement and unconscious participation. This stage is transformative because it allows for conscious navigation of social, professional, and personal landscapes. You no longer operate under scripts imposed by tradition, authority, or fear. Instead, every action is evaluated against the standards of discernment, awareness, and integrity. Where before you may have reacted automatically to social cues, now you respond deliberately, guided by understanding rather than habit. The freedom gained is subtle yet powerful. It does not require approval or validation from others because your alignment with truth provides its own internal validation. Moreover, this liberation enables the cultivation of deeper empathy. By seeing through collective illusions, you begin to understand the unconscious struggles that guide others' behavior without becoming entangled in them. You can recognize patterns of denial, projection, and defense in those around you, and yet remain centered in your own perception. This distinction between observation and attachment is essential. It allows the awakened individual to act with compassion and wisdom, providing presence and guidance without forcing change or imposing awareness. You begin to influence the world not through confrontation, but through the integrity and coherence of your own consciousness. Ultimately, stepping out of the collective illusion creates a space where authenticity thrives. It allows you to live in alignment with reality as you perceive it, to experience relationships without distortion, and to participate fully in life without being ensnared by narratives that are not your own. This freedom forms the foundation for conscious action, self-mastery, and the ability to navigate the complexity of the world with clarity, discernment, and profound inner peace. At this point in the journey, you arrive at a threshold where nothing will ever appear the same again. The moment of full awareness has revealed the lies, illusions, and unconscious agreements that shaped your former reality, and there is no going back. You now operate from a perspective that perceives truth beyond appearances, sensing the patterns that others either cannot or will not see. This transformation is profound. You are no longer a passive participant in the collective narrative, but a conscious presence navigating life with intention, clarity, and discernment. Each choice, each interaction, each moment is filtered through your awakened awareness, allowing you to live authentically without being consumed by the illusions that surround you. This clarity brings both liberation and responsibility. You understand that most people are not yet ready to perceive what you now see, and forcing them to confront it will only create resistance. Instead, your role is to embody the truth without insisting it be accepted. You become a border dweller, between worlds, fully present, deeply aware, and yet unattached to the unconscious scripts of those around you. By holding space with integrity, you offer a model of consciousness, a possibility for others to awaken at their own pace. You do not manipulate, confront, or control. You simply exist with clarity, demonstrating through presence what it means to live consciously. And now, for those who have followed this exploration to its culmination, I invite you to act with intention. If this journey has resonated, leave a comment stating, "I am awake to my own truth," to share your commitment and connection with this path. Like the video to reinforce your engagement, and make sure you are subscribed so you can continue exploring consciousness in the videos ahead. There is a next layer waiting for you, a deeper understanding of perception, reality, and awakening that builds naturally from this point. Click to continue, carry these insights with you, and embrace the process of living, fully awake, aware, and aligned with the truth you now perceive.